Think your gym bro with his protein shaker and his lifting belt is peak physical culture? Please. In my time, men wrestled naked in olive oil, drank bull's blood for pre-workout, and trained with wooden swords twice the weight of real ones. And the most feared fighters in the entire empire? They were fat. Welcome to the original fitness industry.
Let's get one thing straight. Ancient Rome didn't have one gym culture. It had three. And every single one of them is alive and well in your local fitness center right now. The soldier. First, the Roman legionary. This man was not training to look good. He was training to not die. A standard Roman soldier was expected to march 20 miles in 5 hours, carrying over 60 pounds of gear on his back. Armor, weapons, cooking equipment, wooden stakes for building a camp every single night. They called this full load the sarkina, and every recruit who couldn't handle it was gone. Their combat training was brutal. They drilled with wooden swords and wicker shields that weighed twice as much as the real thing. The logic was simple. Train with something heavier, and the real weapon feels like nothing in your hands. They didn't care about muscle definition. They cared about endurance, raw strength, and the ability to swing a sword for hours without your arms giving out. Sound familiar? It should. This is your modern CrossFit, your military-style boot camp, your functional fitness movement. Every trainer who tells you to flip tires and carry sandbags is running a Roman military drill with better marketing. The Gladiator. Now here's where it gets interesting. If you picture a gladiator, you're probably imagining a chiseled, six-pack warrior straight out of a Hollywood movie. Forget that image. It's completely wrong. Roman gladiators were fat, on purpose. Archaeologists who examined gladiator bones from a burial site in Ephesus found that these fighters ate a very specific diet, mostly barley and beans, heavy on carbohydrates, low on meat. Their nicknames even reflected it. Fans called them horderii, barley men. This diet packed on a thick layer of subcutaneous fat over their entire bodies. Why would a professional fighter deliberately get fat? Because fat is armor. A shallow sword cut through a layer of fat bleeds dramatically for the crowd, but doesn't hit muscle or organs. A lean fighter takes the same cut, and he's done. Gladiators were not trying to win quickly. They were trying to survive entertaining. The fat kept them alive long enough to put on a good show, and a good show meant they fought another day. But don't mistake fat for unfit. These men were elite athletes with access to the best medical care in the empire. In fact, one of the most important doctors in all of ancient history, a man named Galen, started his career as a gladiator physician. He learned anatomy not from textbooks, but from patching up sword wounds every weekend. He developed specific recovery diets, treated fractures, and experimented with pain management, essentially becoming the world's first sports medicine doctor. He was so good that he eventually became the personal physician to Emperor Marcus Aurelius himself. Today, you see the exact same body type dominating combat sports. Your heavyweight UFC fighters, your sumo wrestlers, your world's strongest man competitors. They don't look like fitness models, and they would break a fitness model in half. The aristocrat. Then there was the third culture, the Greek aesthetic ideal. While soldiers trained for war and gladiators trained for survival, wealthy Roman men trained for beauty. They adopted Greek gymnastics, which literally means exercising naked. They oiled their bodies, wrestled in the sand, and spent hours sculpting what they considered the perfect male form. But here's the catch. Traditional Romans absolutely hated this. Old-school senators saw Greek-style body worship as soft, foreign, and suspicious. A real Roman proved himself on the battlefield, not flexing in a gymnasium. This cultural war between function and aesthetics played out for centuries, and it never stopped. Right now, somewhere online, a powerlifter and a bodybuilder are arguing about which one of them is actually strong. Same argument. 2,000 years. Zero resolution. The original gym. So where did all this training happen? The Thermae, Roman public baths. And I need you to erase the image of a peaceful spa from your mind. A Roman bath complex was a massive, state-subsidized fitness center open to almost everyone for nearly free. They had a palestra, an open-air exercise yard where men lifted stone weights called halteres, threw heavy balls, wrestled, boxed, and ran drills. After training, you moved through a series of heated pools, got a massage with olive oil, scraped the sweat and dirt off your skin with a curved metal tool called a strigil, and then maybe grabbed food from a vendor right there inside the complex. Some of the larger bath complexes even had libraries. The philosopher Seneca once lived in an apartment above a bathhouse, and he left us a vivid description of the noise. He wrote about the grunting of men swinging heavy weights, the slapping sound of massages, the guy who loved the sound of his own voice singing in the pool, and the constant shouting of food vendors selling sausages and pastries. He described it as unbearable. Read that description again, and tell me it doesn't sound exactly like every commercial gym at 6 p.m. on a Monday. Ancient pre-workout. Now, what were these athletes taking to get an edge? Because they were absolutely taking things. Gladiators drank a mixture of bone ash dissolved in water, likely as a calcium supplement for their bones. Soldiers drank posca, a vinegar-based drink that was essentially an ancient electrolyte solution. And for those seeking real power, bull's blood. Pliny the Elder recorded that athletes consumed fresh bull's blood as a strength enhancer. Some also ate animal testicles, unknowingly chasing what we now know as testosterone. Galen himself prescribed specific diets for different types of athletes. Heavy bread and pork for bulk, light meals and figs for endurance. He was writing personalized macros 17 centuries before your fitness influencer discovered MyFitnessPal. And today, the sports supplement industry is worth over $50 billion. SARMs, testosterone replacement clinics, pre-workout powders with 30 ingredients. The substances changed. The desperation for an edge did not. The body as power. But the Romans understood something that goes far beyond fitness. They understood that the body is a political tool. Emperor Augustus had statues of himself carved to look like a young, athletic god. In reality, ancient sources describe him as frail and frequently ill. It didn't matter. The statue was the message. Emperor Commodus went the opposite direction. He actually stepped into the gladiatorial arena himself, fighting exotic animals and carefully matched opponents. The Senate was horrified. A ruler lowering himself to the status of a slave fighter. But the crowds loved him. He understood spectacle, and his body was the performance. 2,000 years later, world leaders still use their bodies as messaging. The politician in a hard hat at a construction site. The president jogging for cameras. The strongman leader photographed shirtless on horseback. The body is never just a body. It is always a statement. The question Rome asked first. But here's the thought that stayed with me. The Stoic philosopher Seneca, the same man who complained about the noisy gym, also wrote this: "It is foolish to spend too much time on exercise. Heavy workouts make the body strong, but the mind dull." His fellow Stoic, Epictetus, put it even more bluntly. You are not your body. You are what you do with your mind. They were not against fitness. They were against obsession. And 2,000 years later, that line has never been harder to find. Rates of muscle dysmorphia and eating disorders among men are climbing every year. Young men are cycling dangerous compounds to look like a filtered photo. The mirror has become the arena, and the crowd they're performing for lives inside their phone. Rome asked this question first: where does discipline end and obsession begin? We still don't have an answer. So I'll ask you, which Roman fitness tribe do you belong to? Are you the soldier training for function, the gladiator built to survive, or the aristocrat chasing the perfect reflection? Drop your answer in the comments and tell me, would Seneca approve of your routine, or would he call you a fool? And if you think the Romans only shaped how we train our bodies, wait until you see what they accidentally put into their bodies. The most powerful empire in history may have been slowly poisoned by its own favorite ingredient: